ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्रचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यभिमः योगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयामदेवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः स्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेमदेवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो हरिष्ठनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः. सेकेण्ड् कारिका. दक्षिणाक्षिमुखे विश्वः मनस्यन्तस्तु तैजसः आकाशे च हृदि प्राज्ञः त्रिधा देहे व्यवस्थितः. भाष्यं पेज 33 सेकेण्ड् पैराग्राफ्. यद्यपि प्राण अभिमाने सति व्याकृतता एव प्राणस्य तथापि पिण्डपरिच्छिन्न विशेष अभिमान निरोधः प्राणे भवति इति अव्याकृतः एव प्राणः सुषुप्ते परिच्छिन्न अभिमानवतां यथा प्राणलये परिच्छिन्न अभिमानिनां प्राणः अव्याकृतः तथा प्राणाभिमानिनः अपि अविशेष आपत्तौ अव्याकृतता समाना. प्रसवबीजात्मकत्वं च तदध्यक्षश्च एकः अव्याकृतवस्थः परिच्छिन्न अभिमानिनाम् अध्यक्षाणां च तेन एकत्वम् इति पूर्वोक्तं विशेषणम् एकीभूतः प्रज्ञानगणः इत्यादि उपपन्नं तस्मिन् उक्तहेतुत्वाच्च. And so Śaṅkarācārya is commenting upon the second Karika, and the contention right now is Bhashyakara has used the word prana for the prajñā. Whereas he said in the waking state itself, Gaudapada Acharya said that in the waking state one can experience a waker, dreamer and deep sleeper, and therefore all the three are really not distinct. It's one alone appears as all the three. Same way, even in the different states of experience also, one Atma, the Turiya alone experiences all the, he appears as a waker, etc. That's what he conveyed. And then for discussing, while mentioning prajñā, instead of a prajñā, Bhashyakara mentioned pranaha purposely. And then, the question arises, prana is because prajñā means a deep sleeper. And deep sleeper means he is avyakrita, he is undifferentiated. Therefore, how can you call prana? Because prana is basically a vyakritam, differentiated. Even in a deep sleep, prana has not resolved. Resolving means undifferentiation means resolving. Now here it is Vyakrita prana is functioning, respiration, everything, all distinct functioning is there. Therefore pancha pranas are functioning, Vyakrita differentiation. So prana has not resolved. So differentiated prana only is there in a deep sleep state. That cannot be equated with the undifferentiated jiva. undifferentiated prajna. So that was the contention basically. And so Śaṅkara said it can be used because even though differentiation of prana, one pranamaya, other pranamaya, Vyashti pranamaya, Samashti pranamaya, or Swagata Bheda also within one prana, pranapana, etc., Swagata Bheda also will be there. Sajatiya Bheda means one pranamaya, other pranamaya are distinct even in a deep sleep state and therefore differentiated. Very good. But then from the deep sleeper's standpoint, he doesn't experience those differentiation. Therefore, from the deep sleeper standpoint, it is undifferentiated. And therefore, that way we can say prana is prajna. Vyakruta prana becomes avyakruta for this prajna. And just not only the pranas basically are resolved for this person, for the deep sleeper, into as though one mass. No more differentiation for this person, deep sleeper, prajna. Not only that, he says even the jiva who has identified with this one pranamaya also is resolved. The differentiated prana becomes undifferentiated for the deep sleeper. He doesn't experience differences. Therefore, well, we can call it undifferentiated. It's fine. So not just pranas are differentiated prana as though become undifferentiated. The very jiva who has an identification with a given pranamaya, right? So parichinna abhimaninam adhyakshanam api parichinna pranamaya. So what is this limited pranamaya? Well, abhimaninam, the adhyakshanam, the jiva who has abhimana, identification with the one pranamaya, also resolves in deep sleep state. In a waking state, you have a identification. I mean, differentiated pranas are there in waking state, and the consciousness has an identification with this one pranamaya called this jiva, that is the jiva, meaning of the jiva. Therefore, that also resolves. So the abhimana with a one pranamaya also resolves. Not just prana becomes undifferentiated as though for this deep sleeper, his abhimana, his identification with a given pranamaya also resolves. And therefore, tena ekatvam, Īśvara ekatvam. When jiva resolves, right, so you don't experience, that's how I say always in a deep sleep state, you cannot find a difference between a one person and another person. There's no difference. As though there is one I. As though there is one I. It is one I. Why as though? But let's say from the standpoint of experience, there is no difference between myself and you when we both are sleeping. All differences between you and me occur. Vyashti Veda. Or Vyashti Samashti Veda. Jiva Īśvara Veda. In a waking state. So basically, in a deep sleep state, even abhimana with the given pranamaya goes away. Then you are one with Īśvara only now. Right? The cause for the difference between jiva and Īśvara is because jiva, why do you call jiva? Because he has identification with one body, one prana, etc. Here we are talking about pranamaya. Yes, that's how pranamaya has become kosha also. You are also, anyway. So that jivatvam goes away, right? So you are merging in deep sleep state into what? Īśvara. That's what he says. So therefore, purvoktam means where we have, Śaṅkara says that we have already told, and we know, 5th mantra and 6th mantra. 5th mantra talks about prajna, 6th mantra talks about Īśvara, and they are equated there. So, Eshontaryamihi, etc., etc., 6th mantra, and before that in 5th mantra, for the prajna, the description is prajñāna-ghanaha, etc., and ekibhutaha. So, basically, all differences, or all this vyakruta, differentiated thing, get resolved, ekibhuta. Not only that, prajñāna-ghanaha also. The jiva who has an identification with the so-called pranamaya and manomaya and all that, that also resolves. So the jiva also resolves, means because his identification with a given body, mind, sense complex is all naturally, and the differences between upadhis also resolve. That's what it says. Therefore, there is what obtains is a one undifferentiated state. That is Īśvara. That is Īśvara. Therefore, that is why there it is equation. Therefore, Bhashyakara says Purvoktam. We have already told you this. Ekatvam, when we are saying the Jiva gains Ekatvam, Jiva and there is a oneness between Jiva and Īśvara in the deep sleep state, because we have already told you, we have used certain Visheshanas also. Upanishad has used certain Visheshanas also, like Eki Bhutaha, Prajñāna Ganaha in the fifth mantra. Purvoktam means in the fifth mantra. Also reveals the same thing. Therefore, Tasmin means with reference to this subject matter, with reference to this Jiva Īśvara Aikyam in a deep sleep state, Prajñā and Īśvara. There is no difference between Prajñā and Īśvara. There is no difference between Vyashti and Samashti. There is no difference between Vyashti and Vyashti. When the differences between Vyashti and Vyashti will be there, the differences will be Vyashti Samashti also will be there. Vyashti Bheda is there, then Vyashti Samashti Bheda also will be there. Such kind of an experience between Vyashti and differences between Vyashti, different experience of differences. No more there. And therefore, very Jivatvam resolves, then where it resolves? Īśvara. So Prajñā resolves into Īśvara. That's what it says. If Prajñā resolves into Īśvara, then one who wakes up will be Īśvara. No, that Upadhi will be there. That is the thing is there. Mithya Upadhi is there, and therefore with the Mithya Upadhi he resolves there. But then that is what in Pralayavastha. In Pralayavastha, Swamiji, only Īśvara is there. Then if Īśvara alone is there, then if creation comes, Jiva should not come. Jiva is given the body. Therefore, in the state of resolution, even in a Pralaya, when only Īśvara is there, the cause of the entire Sushupti will be there naturally. Sushupti resolves into this cause, that's Īśvara. And therefore, if Īśvara is there, no more Jiva is there. Kya baat hai? Another Sushupti comes, the Jiva comes with the body. Same thing in a deep sleep state. That was we call Prakrishta Layaha. This is Layaha, temporary. Because the Upadhi is there. Therefore, it is, but you cannot see the difference between a Jiva and Īśvara. Right? You cannot see the difference. You cannot experience the difference between Jiva and Īśvara in a unmanifest state. That's what it is. That is called, the definition of an unmanifest state, undifferentiated state, is where the Jiva and Jiva Īśvara Bheda is not experienced. That's it. In an unmanifest state, you cannot experience any differences. That's called undifferentiated state. And therefore even a Pralaya, from Pralaya also the Jiva comes out. Therefore, resolution means, Jiva is resolved means what? It gains the same status of Vyakrita. So, definitely, so this is what it says. Tasmin means with reference to this Vyashti Samashti Aikyam, Ukta Hetutvacha. We have given you the reasons before. Uktam. We have already told you certain reasons. And those reasons we have already discussed also. So, which begins with the Naisha Doshaha, etc. And therefore, if you see this, so in a page 33, in the first paragraph, the second line, Naisha Doshaha, Avyakritasya Deshakala Vishesha Abhavat. We have already told. When one doesn't, very beautiful, Deshakala Vishesha Bhavat, when one doesn't have a recognition of, or awareness, let's say, one doesn't have a awareness of space and time, definitely one is resolved. When the Jivatvam is there, when you have a awareness of a given time or a space, means you are located in so and so place and you have a awareness of a time, definitely you are in a waking state, etc., or you are in a dream state. That is the state where you experience such a differences, Deshakala, Vishesha. But when definitely this Deshakala Vishesha, you don't experience. then definitely the jivatvam has resolved. That's called avyakrutavastha. Even Deshakala also becomes undifferentiated. Deshakala different, Deshakala manifest and then everything also manifests. That's a differentiated state. Anyway, so this we have already told certain hetus before also, and this actually now let's say from one thing, ultimately the Turiya, the Atma or Brahman, I am Atma Brahman, that is the main thing. And that Brahman is everything, that is Atma, and therefore Atma is everything. If Atma is everything, in that case, in any state, whatever you say is Atma. And that is how they have equated, even in the Prathama Pada, Vishwa and Virat, they have equated Tejasa and Hiranyagarbha also, Vyashti Samashti in a second Pada. And Prajñā and Īśvara also is equated. Prajñā and Īśvara, Prajñā is a cause, and Īśvara also is a cause. Both are ultimately, they gain. One Atma gains a state of gains a causal state with a reference to the creation. What is the creation? Vyashti creation. What is Vyashti creation? Sthula Sharira and Sukshma Sharira. Right? And what is Samashti creation? Entire Jagat. Prapancha. Starting from elements, Sukshma, etc. And that is Upadhi for Īśvara. And therefore, and Vyashti also, Prajñā is a cause. In Samashti, Īśvara is a cause. Prajñā is a cause of what? Prajñā is a cause of the body. Prajñā is a cause of the body. Which body? This subtle body and the gross body. If Prajñā is a cause of the subtle and gross body, then Prajñā has created those elements for the subtle? No. Or the gross? No. That's a part of Īśvara's creation. Then how can you call Prajñā is a cause? Īśvara is a cause for everything. Yes, Īśvara is a cause for everything and Prajñā also is a cause. For body, mind, sense, complex, you say Prajñā is a cause, at the same time Īśvara also is a cause? Yeah. You are the cause by giving a blueprint to Īśvara. That's the thing. Your Karana-sharira has a cause. It has a blueprint. Karma. Therefore, you are also a cause. Prajñā means what? Karana-sharira, Abhimani Chaitanya. What is Karana-sharira? So, Karana-sharira means Ajnana. Ajnana means what? No knowledge. Means Abhava. From Abhava, the bodies are created. Bhava? From Abhava, Bhava is created. No. Therefore, Karana-sharira means all karma, sanchita karmas, vasanas. And of course, Ajnana means there is a avarana on Chidananda. Sachidananda. The Chidananda comes because Nirvana should come, I am teaching. So anyway, and Brahman. So there is avarana also. And therefore, thereby, this Karana-sharira first creates avarana that you are really a Brahman, and also creates a vikshipa, jivatvam, etc. That gets resolved in a deep sleep state. Only abhimana resolves. The jivatvam is due to identification with this, which is nothing but a Īśvara Sushupti, but that you got a particular body, subtle body and particular gross body is due to the Karana-sharira, karma. Therefore, Prajñā becomes a Karana. Could you follow? Prajñā means one who is a Karana-sharira, Abhimani. The Karana-sharira is a predominance. Well, the Prajñā is basically a cause for Vishwa and Tejasa, you can say. And of course, Īśvara is a cause of the Prapancha, because of which you have got the body. That's a part of Prapancha, right? Part of Prapancha, part of the Jagat, gross body, subtle body, all this. It's from the māyā alone, everything is created, subtle elements and everything. And you got a special body, subtle body and all that. Therefore, you are also the cause. So you give a blueprint to Īśvara, and as per your blueprint, Īśvara creates a body for you. So Prajñā and Īśvara both are cause. So what is obtains in a causal state is Prajñā and Īśvara. That's what we say. And the differences between the Prajñā and Īśvara, Vyashti and Samashti, cannot be experienced because it is a causal state, it is unmanifest state, it is undifferentiated state. Undifferentiated means differences are not experienced. And therefore, So, what obtains in a Tritiya Pada of the same Atma is this prajñā and Īśvara. That is being said in the 5th mantra and 6th mantra. Anyway, and so, but Swamiji, we feel very odd when you say Vishwa is Virat, both are equated. Then Vishwa, if you say it's fine, that Vishwa and Virat, Tejas and Hiranyagarbha equation, means equating. We don't like it. That's true. But suppose if you don't like it and if you don't want to accept it, no problem. But just see that ultimately you need a jnanam of a Turiya. And Turiya, Atma is the Brahman. I am Atma Brahma, Sarvami Etad Brahma. And therefore, ultimately, you, the Atma or Brahman, is one and the same. And therefore, you are whole or Brahman is whole. Either you say. When you are whole, you have to take into account Virat, etc. or not. You have to take into it. Anyway, so point is basically, if you don't want to accept, let's say Vishwa and Virat in the Prathama Pada, Taijasa, Hiranyagarbha, Prajñā, Īśvara, etc. The differences you want to maintain, let's say. Then ultimately all of this have to be resolved through one Bhagatyaga Lakshana. You have to do that. That is how I always say, when Bhagatyaga Lakshana means you are Tyaga, you are removing, you are negating a portion from Prajñā, from Vyashti and from Samashti, both. Then you arrive at the same thing. That is why I gave you this example of the ocean and this, right? I give you the example. And therefore, when I said I am ocean, I am wave, and I said I am ocean, then definitely you, in the content-wise, what you are doing is that you are doing Bhagatyaga. I am wave when you say, and now you are analyzing the wave, you find the truth is the water. What did you do? Bhagatyaga Lakshana. Wave means this particular water with a particular name and form. Now you remove that. Why we should remove it? Because it is mithya. There is nothing like a wave name and form independent of the water, and therefore you remove it. You remove it means you negate it. That's what it means. You negate it. Because all that is there is water ultimately. And by saying all that is there is water, you have done Bhagatyaga Lakshana. Negating name and form as mithya. Now go to the ocean. And now ocean means number of waves. Right? Number of waves. Analyze each wave. Like you analyze you as a wave when you found water. Analyze every wave. Then there also you are negating name and form. The truth is water. Another way, another way, another way, another way, another way. Even between two waves, water. Wave, water. Wave number 1, water. Wave number 2, water. Wave number 3, water. Oh, you are also water. And all that is there in ocean is also water. Therefore I am ocean. Therefore I am ocean. Could you follow? And therefore, by Bhagatyaga Lakshana, you can arrive at the truth of you and Īśvara, you and ocean, the wave and ocean. And that in that sense, you can also resolve. So same way, Prathama, Dvitiya, Tritiya Pada, etc. When in the Tritiya Pada, prajñā obtains as a Īśvara, let us say. Prajñā resolves into Īśvara, so obtains as a Īśvara. There, we are not able to accept it, then we should do Bhagatyaga Lakshana. Because ultimately Turiya means everything. That is Atma, that is Brahman. That is what the teaching ultimately is, that you are Turiya. Means you are not Vishwa Tejas Prajñā, and not just that you are some individual consciousness only, and not this body, mind, sense complex, etc. Not Vishwa Tejas Prajñā. You are Brahman. You are all pervading consciousness. Therefore you pervade even so-called Īśvara also. Therefore, the truth of Īśvara and Jiva, both Vyashti and Samashti, is one thing. So either way, what I'm saying is, that's a purpose. Therefore, in Taittiriya Upanishad also, in the second chapter, talks about Panchakosha. There Panchakosha Viveka, here Avasthātraya Viveka. My point is, there also it is said in the same thing. After discussing the Annamaya Kosha, what is this Annamaya Kosha? As I told you, there is Annam, food. That food is there, outside it is Annam. When you eat that food, it becomes Annamaya. Please understand. Annamaya means it gets modified into all this blood and everything. Becomes a physical body. So it's a modified. Saptadhatus, you can say, either, whatever way. But outside it is Annam. You eat, becomes Annamaya. Modified food. But then Annamaya becomes kosha. How? When you say, I am black, I am white, I am that. So I, the Chidananda, right? Now you say, I am this. Therefore, this Annamaya has become the cause for mistake, for misconstruing the self. Becomes a cause for that. And therefore, definitely Annamaya, same Annamaya is called kosha. So Annam, Annamaya, Annamaya Kosha. This is how we have to understand. Same prana also I talked to you. Prana means just air outside. Enter here, prana. Enter here inside, prana. Then modified into 5, pranamaya. And then again, I am breathing, I am this, I am that, I am alive. So therefore, that pranamaya becomes pranamaya kosha. This is how the things are. Anyway, so in Taittiriya also, Annamaya discussion is over. Immediately, that is a Veshti, naturally, you know. Immediately, Taittiriya Upanishad, which is a mantra Brahmana Upanishad. So Brahmana portion, it is the Taittiriya Upanishad occurs in a Taittiriya Brahmana. And even Mahanarayana Upanishad also is part of it. And Upanishad itself quotes a mantra from Taittiriya Samhita. Therefore, we always say Taittiriya Upanishad is a mantra Brahmana Upanishad. And how it quotes, before quoting it says, what is that? Tasmin shloko bhavati, something, I forgot that. Means tasmin arthe. So, tadappesha shloko bhavati, I'm sorry. Tadappesha shloko bhavati. Tad api. Tasmin arthe api shlokaha. Shlokaha means this mantra from Taittiriya Samhita is quoted, and immediately talks about a samashti annamaya, samashti annam. So annamaya kosha, vyashti, annamaya is vyashti, of course is kosha. Annamaya vyashti is equated with samashti annam. So vyashti, samashti, aikyam. Same way after describing pranamaya, same Upanishad again, tadappesha shloko bhavati. And so, again another Rik mantra is quoted from the Taittiriya Samhita. Samhita means mantra bhaga. So, the Rik shloka means this mantra has been quoted. What is the mantra? Well, pranan deva anuprananti. Devaha anuprananti because of this samashti prana. All of us are breathing and, all physiological functions takes place because of the Hiranyagarbha, samashti prana. So that is how Vyashti Pranamaya, Samashti Prana, Pranamaya, or Vyashti Prana, Samashti Prana has been equated in Taittiriya also. So anyway, if so this Aikyam has not been deliberately shown to you, right? Then at the end also, at the level of Atma also, right? This is all an Anatma. Vyashti Annamaya, Samashti Annamaya. Anatma, naturally. Vyashti Pranamaya, Samashti Pranamaya. So that is at the Anatma level. If the difference is, if you believe that there are real difference between Vyashti and Samashti, then the Atma which is pervading all this so-called Anatmas, there also you will see the differences. One Atma different from another Atma. Right? So that is how the other philosophers, especially all the Sankhya, Yoga, Nayayaka and Vaisheshika, they never talk about Atma's oneness. They never say Atma is Ekamadvitiyam. We only say. We say means it is actually already in the Upanishad. We explain it this way. They are not able to understand this. Because at the level of Anatma itself, they are basically seeing the difference. But they don't understand so-called Anatma is just a mithya manifestation of the same Atma. Vishwa and Virat are nothing but Atma's prathama pada. So Atma alone appears in the form of both. Therefore, there is one Atma alone. So Vyashti Samashti Aikyam from the beginning in a Mandukya Upanishad, by saying Vishwa Virat, showing in a one, equating in a mantra, equating as a prathama pada of the Atma, well, is very deliberate, very, very deliberate. Anyway, so Ukta Hetutvat Vyashti Samashti Aikyam. This has been, Ukta Hetutvat means we have already given a supporting evidence before also, and therefore there is Vyashti Samashti Aikyam is, means this, because of this reason, that later on one may conclude that Atmas also are many, as the Anatmas are many. So we are showing a Vyashti Samashti Aikyam at the level of Anatma itself, like Prana. So, right, Prana, etc. And Prana Abhimani Chaitanyam also we are showing a Aikyam. So, Vyashti Prana Abhimani Chaitanyam, that the Abhimana itself goes away, then definitely it resolves into the Samashti. That's how we say. Anyway, Katham Prana Shabdatvam Avyakrutasya means Prajñasya. Pranabandhanam hi somya manaha iti shrutehe nanu tatra sadeva somya iti prakrutam sadbrahma prana shabda vachyam. So that is there, this bhashyam is there on page number 34, second paragraph. Katham prana shabdatvam avyakrutasya. Now what happens is, this is a question. It's a Purupaksha, you can say. So how can you, again, base your argument of Vyashti Samashti Aikyam? Because you said, our objection is this, that you said prana is a Vyakruta, doing its own function in a deep sleep state. That's how person is alive. Because of that only he wakes up. Therefore prana is very active. And all activities, not just one prana, but apana, vyana, udana. So prana is a Vyakruta, differentiated, going on activity, one pranamaya, other pranamaya also, differences are there even in a deep sleep, everything is there. Then you say from the deep sleeper's standpoint, since he does not experience such differences, he is not able to say, well, that I am alive at this time, I am breathing, etc. Means he has given up the identification, and therefore for him it is as though a resolved state, as though undifferentiated state. So we don't like this, as though resolved, even though it is not resolved. Prana resolves means the person is no more alive. So prana is very much there, functioning. Therefore differentiation, Vyakruta, manifest pranas are there, but you say as though become unmanifest, as though undifferentiated from the deep sleeper standpoint. We don't like this as though. What is this as though? Just to, to basically to justify your arguments you are saying? Because you said prana means prajna. Prajna is avyakruta, prana is a vyakruta, and you want to justify that. You say as though undifferentiated, as though unmanifest. We don't like this as though. So this is Purupaksha, so how can you base your argument on as though case? And anything as though is really not there, naturally. I am as though rich means what? I am really poor only. So therefore, this is what it is. And therefore, this as though undifferentiated, we don't like. We cannot equate. When you say I am as though rich, will you equate yourself as a richness? Really? No. Same thing. Why should you equate prana and prajna? You should not. Because one is really a Vyakruta, other is a Vyakruta, very clear. Now, from deep sleeper standpoint, it is resolved. Therefore, we say as though resolved. No, that's not fair. So, katham prana shabdatvam avyakrutasya. How can the word prana, which is Vyakruta, and you use it for the prajna? Prajna is an undifferentiated entity. Prana is a differentiated entity. You should not equate. And then Śaṅkara ji now gives his real intention why he has used this word prana for the prajna. Prana bandhanam hi somya manaha. So, in a Chāndogya Upanishad, the Veda basically itself tells the word prana for the prajna and Īśvara. So in Chāndogya Upanishad, Veda itself uses the word prana, and for prajñā-Īśvara, which is avyakrita, prana is used for prajñā-Īśvara, which is avyakrita. Which prana? Because in Chāndogya also, when the prana is Chāndogya, you have to jump from here, from Mandukya. And so there also the discussion of deep sleep state. And there, while discussing deep sleep state, well, definitely, Upanishad uses the word prana for avyakrita, Īśvara, prajñā, etc. And therefore, the Bhashyakara says, because of that, I am also using word prana here for the prajñā. So, but this is not analysis. This is mimamsa. Mimamsa means a pujita vichara. The analysis of the Vedic statement, pujita, with the reverence. Since the Veda uses the word prana for prajñā, we will have to see the meaning. Why Veda is using this? We should not neglect, we should not dismiss that. Because Veda is a pramana, right? Veda is a pramana for us, means of knowledge for us, for gaining knowledge of the self, etc. And therefore, whatever Veda says, Shabda is a pramana, then whatever Shabda has been used, we have to analyze properly and justify that yes, in this particular sense only word, this prana is used for the prajñā, etc. And therefore, basically, this word prana has been used for prajñā, Īśvara, etc. in Chāndogya. Where? So, it is, Bhashyakara says 682 of the Chāndogya. In Savidya Prakarana itself, while discussing deep sleep state, Uddalaka talks to Shvetaketu, and he says this jiva resolves into prana, that is Īśvara. Means the prajñā and Īśvara is one alone. And that is fine. But for that avyakrita state, where prajñā and Īśvara both are there, means it is in one state, right? But prana is used. Therefore, prana can be used for the avyakrita, prajñā or Īśvara. That's what Bhashyakara is going to explain. And so, here, prana bandhanam hi somya manaha is been quoted by Bhashyakara. That look, the word prana is there for avyakrita, prajñā and Īśvara. And but prajñā or Īśvara, both, and deep sleep state, both, because the prajñā has lost abhimana with this pranamaya or etc., with the body, etc. And therefore, there is no vyashti bhava at all. So it is the Īśvara. Anyway, so prana bandhanam hi somya manaha iti shrutehe. Because of this statement in Chāndogya, in 6th chapter, 8th section, 2nd mantra, we are using the word prana for the avyakrita. That's what Bhashyakara says. Iti shrutehe means this is the Panchami. Because of this statement of the Shruti, Chāndogya Shruti, etc. Okay. Then we feel that this is over now. Purupakshi says no. Nanu. Tatra sadeva somyeti prakrutam sadbrahma prana shabda vachyam. So, tatra means in that Chāndogya, in this portion, in that Savidya Prakaranam, 6th chapter, sadeva somyeti, it begins with what? Sadeva somya idamagra asit ekameva dvitiyam. The context, the Purupakshi says, you are right, Vedanta, you always say that a given word should have a meaning depending upon the context. So I am giving you the context now. That word prana has been used for prajñā Īśvara, or prana word has been used there in Chāndogya for something else. You say it is used for prajñā Īśvara. But look at the context. It begins with what? Sadeva somya idamagra asit ekameva dvitiyam. And therefore, that is a 6-1. 6th chapter, 2nd section, 1st mantra. Sadeva somya idamagra asit, etc. And so that is a quotation by whom? Purapaksha. Pranabandhanam is somya is a quotation by whom? Bhashyakara. Means Vedantin. Purupakshi says, in a counter reply, that you said prana is used for pranabandhanam is somya mana indicates, in a deep sleep state, the mana is this jiva. I already discussed also that also. With the help of little Brahma Sutra also I discussed that. So I'm not going again in that. So Manah means the Jiva. Well, in a deep sleep state, the Jiva, well, is Prāṇa-bandhanam. Jiva is totally become one or gets connected to Īśvara, that is Prāṇa. That is also Vyakrita. And the deep sleep state. Therefore, well, I can use, Bhashyakara says, word Prāṇa I can use for a Vyakrita. Prajñā and Īśvara becomes one, as though one, in a deep sleep state. And therefore, well, so then he says, no, you quoted from 6th chapter, 8th section, but you see the beginning. What is the beginning? Sadeva Sumedam Agrasit. It is Sadvidya Prakarana. So whatever word, prana, etc. is there, you should give that meaning, Sad Brahma, etc. Not this prajñā-Īśvara. That's what he says now. And we'll go into that little detail in Chāndogya, that 8th section. The Uddalaka, that the Guru, naturally, the father and the Guru, addresses his son, who is a disciple now, and he only started this Sadvidya Prakarana. I mean, Sadeva Sumedam Agrasit, etc. And because he wants to give, the pratigna was this, Eka Vijñānina Sarvamidam Vijñātam Bhavati, that was a pratigna. So by knowing one thing, everything is known. Did you ask to your teacher, etc.? Uddalaka asked. And then Shvetaka said, no, I don't think my teacher knew of such kind of a knowledge. So then he requested his father that please teach me. And so Uddalaka started. In this 8th section now, there is a, here Uddalaka says, let's analyze the Sushupti Avastha. Let's analyze the deep sleep state. And Sapnantam he somya vijanihi yatra etat purushaha swapiti nama sata somya tada sampanno bhavati. When a jiva goes to sleep, well, jiva resolves, jivatvam resolves, the veshti bhava resolves, the self-awareness resolves, the sense of individuality resolves. When sense of individuality resolves, what remains is samashti only. Anyway, so therefore, so jiva resolves. He doesn't have any the sense of individuality arises because of his abhimana. Abhimana with a veshti, whatever is there, pranamaya and mind and etc. Anyway, so that abhimana resolves with the limited things. And therefore now he is free from the sense of individuality, sense of limitation in a deep sleep state, and therefore he becomes one with this Īśvara. That's what he says. So, he doesn't experience the objective world, he doesn't have a sense of individuality, means he is no more a subject also. This subject-object division and to experience the object, there is a identification with the instruments, etc. All that is resolved. Triput is resolved. Subject, object and instruments. Everything resolved in deep sleep state. And when it resolves, then where it goes, that was a question. Means the Uddalaka's intention was that when in a waking state, subject, object and instruments, everything is there, when subject is able to objectify through instruments, through the means of knowledge available, senses, etc., everything resolves, right? So when anything resolves, that's what he wanted Shvetaketu to appreciate, that is so-called in a waking state, the waking world and the subject and whatever is there in the waking state or even in a dream state, then this subject-object division and the instrument resolves into what? This is all karya. This effect should resolve into its cause. Any time when any effect resolves always into its cause. And therefore our ornaments resolve into its cause called gold. From there only it manifests. And same way for the clay also. Whatever comes out of the clay, which is the cause of course. So when clay world resolves, pots, etc., pots, pans, jars, whatever, resolve into clay only. Same way, now look at this creation. It's also effect. Subject, which we always denote in form of a subject-object, and the contact between subject-object through the instruments. All resolve. Then it should resolve into its cause. What is the cause? It cannot be gold. For the ornaments it is gold, or for the earthenware it is clay. But for this creation, well, resolves into cause. What is that cause? That was a question and an analysis on the part of Uddalaka while explaining to nature of the self, etc., which is Sat. Well, explaining that, well, he was analyzing this deep sleep state. And so, what is the karanam of that so-called universe, right? Subject, object, and instruments. And therefore, we have to say it resolves into, well, the Sat, because that is where it started. Sadeva sumedamagra asit ekameva advitiyam. All that was idam sarvam, all that you see was in the form of Sat. Means all that manifest world which you see was in the form of Sat. So it has come from that. And definitely it will resolve also into that. The Sat is the Karanam for the entire creation. That's what he wanted to say. So, which is the cause of the entire Jagat, is Sat. Therefore, in a deep sleep state, this Jagat, which is characterized by subject, object, and instruments, should resolve into cause called Sat. And therefore, what obtains in a deep sleep state, where everything resolves, right? Entire Jagat resolves, Jagat, subject, object, everything resolves into what? Into its Karanam called Sat. That's what it has been said in the 6th chapter. And therefore, Sata Somya Tada Sampanno Bhavati. Very clear, Upanishad says. In a deep sleep state, Sampannaha means merged. Subject, object, instrument merged. Sampannaha. He Somya, He Shvetaketu, Sata. Sata means Sadrupena. It's a Ithambute. All that becomes just Sat. Like all ornaments just become gold. Swarna Rupena. Right? In a deep sleep state, resolve means, well, all what obtains is Swarnam. Or what obtains is just clay. Sat Karana-rupena, you can also say. Which obtains in the form of a Karanam. Which is what? Sat. Sata means it is Sadrupena. So, Ithambute. So, Jiva and this universe, subject, object, everything, the subject and object, which is there in the waking, and the instruments all resolve into deep sleep state, into its cause, which is Sat, which should be Sat only because that's how it began. Sadeva somedamagra asit, etc. And therefore, Tada means Sushupti Kale. So, definitely at the time of Sushupti, Sampanna merged this Jiva, subject, and this so-called objective world, all this and the instruments resolve into its cause, which is called Sat. And then Upanishad gave an example of a bird. After that, after this saying that Sata Somya Tada Sampanno Bhavati, etc., etc., then Upanishad itself gives an example. What is the example? Yatha Shakunihi. Yatha means an example. Shakunihi Sutrena Prabaddaha Disham Disham Sutrena Prabaddaha Disham Disham Patitva Anyatra Ayatanam Alabdva Bandhanam Eva Upashrayet. So basically, Bandhanam means this, he comes back to, means Shakuni. Shakuni means some bird, which is Sutrena Prabaddaha. Suppose you think, like just, in a water, in an ocean, let's say, if one vessel is going, and the person, well, definitely he is fond of birds, and so he has few birds on the board, and a bird, he allows the birds to fly naturally, you can, and but he also wants that they should come back. So what he does, he ties his legs with a thread and keep it on some a thing on the vessel itself, where the other end will be tied, and then it allows the birds to fly. He is also moving, and birds also fly, but wherever the bird flies, right, remains all the time connected to that thread. So whole day the birds fly here and there along with the vessel which is going. They also fly here and there, but then they always come back. to the same original place where they are tied. Same way, here this jiva, bird, flies. In a waking state, it flies here and there, undergoes various experiences, right? Through the instruments, contacting various objects of the world in a form of a subject, contacts various objects through instruments. Again in a dream state, as a subject, dreamer, he experiences various objects in the dream world through the dream instruments. Well, in both the states, he keeps flying here and there, but ultimately, in a deep sleep state, it comes back to a place, original place, where he is tied. Naturally, every karya, every jiva, the subject and the object, everything is tied to what? The karana. And therefore, ultimately, so this jiva also, after getting tired in a jagrata avastha and a sapna avastha, in a sushupti, jiva basically comes back to the original source. Therefore, sata somya tada sampanno bhavati. So before giving example, the Upanishad has mentioned this sata somya sampanno bhavati. Means it basically in a deep sleep state, it remains in the form of a sat, which is karanam. And after bird example, and Upanishad again repeats that prana bandhanam hi somya manaha. So just as the bandhanam means this perch of the bird, means the original place, that's called bandhanam. So the jiva, the bird, comes back to prana, which is the bandhanam, original place for it, original source for it, the karanam for it. So that is where it comes. Prane badhyate iti prana bandhanam. This jiva, the manaha, prana bandhanam hi somya manaha. He somya, oh dear, manaha, the manupadika jiva, which I already discussed that jiva, is badhyate, prane badhyate, is connected, that there is a thread to prana. Prana means there Īśvara. Therefore, but it is not Īśvara here. He says, Guru Pakshi says, it is Sat. Sata somya tada sampanno bhavati. So sampannaha, this jiva ultimately merged in a deep sleep state into its cause called Sat. Sata. Therefore, in the form of Sat, that is Sad Vidya Prakaram. Sat alone is the cause for everything, subject, object, and everything. Therefore, it goes back again to the Sat in a deep sleep state only, the causal state. Therefore, prana word has been used definitely. Prana bandhanam is somya manaha. That's true. But then that manaha, that jiva, what is the bandhanam? What is the original place for this? That is Sat. So prana word indicates Sat, not prana indicates prajñā-Īśvara, etc. That is Sat. Therefore, why do you say prana is, I use the word prana for the prajñā-Īśvara, etc. And the reference is the Chāndogya, prana bandhanam hi somya manaha. But check there. That is a Sadvidya Prakaranam. And there, very clearly Upanishad says, Sata somya sada sampanno bhavati tada sushupti kale. At the time of deep sleep state, this jiva merges sampannaha sadrupena. Jiva merges into Sat, because that is the cause. Therefore, and then Shakuni example, and then again Upanishad says, prana bandhanam hi somya manaha. So therefore, the word prana, which is the cause for this jiva and the jagat, everything, that karana alone obtains in the deep sleep state, that is Sat, not prajñā-Īśvara. Not prajñā-Īśvara. Therefore, prana word should not be used for prajñā-Īśvara. Prana word is used in a Chāndogya for Sat. Sat Brahma. That's what he says. So, that was the issue. But what is the issue? That is the issue here. Because basically, so in a Mandukya prajñā-Īśvara means what? It is the trutiya pāda of the Atma. Trutiya pāda of Brahman. I am Atma Brahman. And uh, and Bhashyakara uses the word prana for the prajna, which is not Atma, but which is Trutiya Pada of the Atma. Okay. And Bhashyakara justifies word prana, which he has used for prajna. He justifies by quoting Chāndogya, prana bandhanam hi somya manaha. Their word prana is for Sad Brahma, which is Turiya, which is not Trutiya Pada. Could you follow what I am saying? So, therefore, for the Chaturtha Pada, Turiya Pada, Sad Brahma, then it is same thing. Prajñā-Īśvara and this Sad Brahma, same thing. No, it is not same thing. When you go to Turiya, it is one thing is certain, that which is quite distinct from Karya and Karana. You don't know, Brahmavidya is not that you are cause of everything. Brahmavidya is that which is what? That I am the whole. When you say I am whole, where is the relationship of cause-effect also? Cause-effect relationship is not there. Well, there is a world and I am cause of it. No, that's not knowledge. I am whole is a knowledge. I am limitless consciousness is a knowledge. Where karyam and karanam status also goes away. Kāraṇa-brahman brahma ahamasmi. I am distinct from karya and karana. Whereas prajñā-Īśvara is a cause. Prajna is a cause for the subtle and gross body, and the Īśvara is a cause for entire prapancha, starting from subtle elements, etc., through māyā. And therefore, basically, so prana word in Chāndogya has been used for Sat Brahma, which is distinct from Karika. In Mandukya, Acharya uses word prana for prajñā-Īśvara, which is cause for the either sharira or the prapancha. So, not true. Prana should not be used for prajna. It is just a trutiya pada of the Atma. Whereas Sad Brahma is a turiya, chaturtha, which is neither a cause nor effect. Therefore should not be used. Anyway, and therefore he says, well, I can't accept. That's what it has been said here. Nanu tatra sadeva sumeti prakrutam sad brahma prana shabda vachyam. So the word prana in the Sushupti Vichara refers to prakrutam brahma, which is sad brahma. Where? In Chāndogya. And so when Purvapakshi says sad brahma, well, in his mind it is what? Turiyam, Kārikāra vinakshanam sad brahma. That is prakrutam. That is under discussion in Chāndogya. You are quoting prana, Bhashyakara, you are quoting prana bandhanam hi somya manaha. That prana refers to basically, in a deep sleep state. It's a state analyzing deep sleep state by Uddalaka to the Shvetaketu. Their prana word is used. But that prana means basically Sad Brahma. Because that is the prakarana. Sadeva somidamagra asit. So, nanu tatra means in Chāndogya, Sadeva somya iti. That much is enough. The whole quotation is not required. Sadeva somya iti prakrutam. What is under discussion there is Sad Brahma Prana Shabda Vachyam. That is Prana Shabda Vachyam. The meaning of the word prana there is Sad Brahma. That is Prakrutam. That is under discussion there. That's why it's called Sadvidya. And that Sad Brahma, even in deep sleep state, well, it is Sad Brahma, Sata Sumya. So the Jiva obtains in the form of Sat Brahma, which is Turiya, which is Kāraṇa-brahman. And therefore, here you refer to prajñā-Īśvara, which is cause, which is kāraṇa-brahman. There it is kāraṇa-brahman. Then, no. Justifying word prana for prajñā-Īśvara, you quote Chāndogya, but there the reference is. So, Bhashyakara, with great respect to you, I disagree with you. Bhashyakara says, Naisha dosha. Nothing to worry about. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamidamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.